Alright, hello once again, Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College, and I've been going over some of the book material, some of the code material for Murach's Android Programming, 2nd edition by Joel Murach, and I'm up to Chapter 7, which talks about working with themes and styles. And what I decided to do here was to go into developer.android.com and look up themes and styles. Now they mention here that a style is a collection of attributes, all right, that specify the look and format for a view or window. So we've talked about things like styles before. We've set styles in ASP.NET. All right, we've done things like created in, basically we've done it with classes, but like with an error class, which is setting a style. So I could say that I wanted a font to be of a certain size, of a certain color, etc. All right, so they mention here that a style can specify attributes like height, padding, font color, font size, background color, etc. A style is defined by as an XML resource separate from the XML that specifies the layout. So they say that you can take this and turn it into this. Well, why would you want to do that? If I want a consistent look and feel in my application for all of the different, let's say that I'm going to have an application that's going to have several different pages on it, and in those several different pages, I want to have, let's say that each page is going to have text views and edit text. And I want to make sure they all look alike as far as the size, the color, etc. Then I can go in and create my own file in order to do this. My own style, I should say. So it says, styles and Android share a similar philosophy to cascading style sheets in web design. They allow you to separate design from content. So styles are an aesthetic tool. A theme, on the other hand, all right, a theme, which again, we've looked at things similar to this in courses like, or class, languages like ASP.NET, is a style that's applied to an entire activity or app rather than an individual view. When a style is applied as a theme, every view in the activity applies each style. So it is a way that you can globalize styles. So they mention here, to create a set of styles, you save an XML file in the res values directory of the project. The name must use an XML extension, all right? And the root node must be resources. For each style, they mention in here that there are a series of steps that you have to follow. You add the style element to the file. For each attribute, you add an item element, and you add an appropriate value for each item element. So you saw that. I think they're going to give you, there it is. So there's your style, and there's the items that make up the style. Now when you do this too, notice that we're actually including colors, etc., but we don't have to do that. If we're including colors as an example, we can use the colors.xml file, put the colors we want in there, and then include references in there, which is really a cleaner way of doing it. Now here's a very simple style, and you'll notice certain text color and a certain typeface. So we could apply this style to many different types of widgets if we wanted to or needed to do that. All right, so notice apply a theme or activity to an app. This is going to give you more, all right, from developer.android.com. Let's just jump back though. The parent attribute in the style element allows you to specify a style from which your style should inherit attributes. So you can use inheritance. Now, why would you want to use inheritance? Because maybe a style has been defined that's got 90% of what you want. So you can inherit that and then add the other 10% that you want to add to it. It says, now that you understand how a style is defined, you need to learn what kind of style attributes are available. The attributes, all right, in many ways, I look at it this way, that it's very similar to looking at a properties list, because virtually everything that's there you're able to use. The author says, for a reference of all style attributes available in the Android framework, see the RATTR reference. Now, when you start to look through this, it's alphabetized, and then there's an explanation of what each one of them are. I don't at all suppose to be an expert on this. I know I'm not an expert, but as always, when I want to be able to apply this stuff, looking at this, I know where to go to do it. All right. Applying styles and themes to the user interface, as it says, there's several ways of doing it. To add an individual view, you can add the style attribute to a view element. To an individual view, as it says, you can pass a style resource to a view constructor. So there's different ways of doing it. Is there one way that's better than others? Of course not. At least in my opinion, there isn't. There's many ways of doing the same thing. Good, bad, or indifferent. Android, like most other, and I don't know if you even call Android a language, because it uses Java, but Java, like other languages, and really, I should mention this, I haven't talked about it before, that the plan is over the next, I don't know how much time, but the natural language or the base language or whatever you want to call it of Android is switching from Java to a language called Kotlin. The good news is Java and Kotlin are compatible, and you don't have to switch immediately because they interoperate with one another. So it is quite possible that you can keep your existing Java code and just do your new development in Kotlin, as an example. All right. So the author says, to set a theme for all activities for the app, you open the Android manifest file and edit the application tag to include the theme. If you want a theme applied to just one activity, then you can add the Android theme to the activity tag instead. So there's multiple ways of doing this. All right, let's just take a quick look at what is in here. Again, I realize I'm not showing you a lot of new stuff in here. But again, the idea is rather than doing that is to just go through some of the different things that are available in here. So you already know that a style is a collection of properties that you apply to a widget. A theme is a collection of styles that you can apply to either an entire activity, which means to a screen, or to an entire app, which means if you've got multiple screens, all right, you can apply them to all. Several themes are available. Beginning in Android API 14 and later, you can include an action bar that's got the activity's title and buttons that perform actions. So here's style versus theme. It's kind of what I just mentioned. This is how you could come in and apply the theme to the entire application. They give you two styles of .xml files here. If necessary, you can use multiple styles.xml files to set appropriate themes. The Android manifest uses the application element for all of them. That's what we just saw previously. The styles.xml file which must be in the res values directory, is applied to all API levels unless you override it with your own. How to convert an existing project to the AppCompat theme. When you use Android Studio to create a project based on a blank activity, it automatically sets the theme to the AppCompat theme. But if you're working with an older app and you want to convert it so it also uses the AppCompat theme, they give you this process that's shown on page 203 in the book. And this is it. You right-click on the app node and select the Open Module Settings item, which is going to bring this up. You click the Dependencies tab and you click the plus button, and it says you use the resulting dialog to add the AppCompat07 library, which is shown right here. You open the class for the activity, and you make sure you take the import for the activity class and you change it to this. This is basically what we have by default. So you can use that if you're working with a project that uses an older theme. All right. They show you examples here of styles and how to go through those. I think I've covered this already. You may or may not agree. Now, the author mentions here on 206 and 207, it shows you here how to apply styles like the ones that were mentioned here and here. One way to do this is to display a layout in the graphical editor. Click the widget and click the button to the right of the Style Properties window. When you do that, Android Studio displays this dialog box. And then you can select the style that you want to apply. The style attribute does not use, if you put it in like this, the Android colon that you see most of the time. You can also come in and create your own style sheets. A style sheet then would be a collection of styles that can be applied throughout an application. So you'd create something that looks like this. All right, the first thing at the top that you see there is a custom theme named App Theme. All right, and that basically inherits from the AppCompat theme that we talked about earlier. The next four elements that you see that are in here, they define custom styles that are applied, that are used to apply formatting to all the widgets of the Tip Calculator app. Wish they'd shown a picture here, but they don't. Within themes, the name attribute of an item element can specify an attribute that corresponds basically to the theme style. So, a style typically you apply to a widget. A theme is typically a collection of styles that you apply either to a screen or to an entire project. All right. They have some of the built-in themes on pages 218 and 219 in the text. I'm not going to read these to you. It's all shown in there. A lot of them just make sense. All right. Some of these are older themes. Some of them are these hollow themes, etc. As far as applying themes on 220 and 221, the author shows this here. You can use the Android manifest.xml file to apply themes to an entire app. So when you go into the manifest file, typically changes you make in there are going to be affecting the entire project. If you want to apply a theme to a specific activity, all right, then notice rather than being within an application tag, it's within an activity tag. This is a built-in theme. This would be your own custom theme. The chapter ends on 222 and 223 by talking about colors. We've talked a little bit about colors before. You can add a colors.xml file, and again, you can specify your own colors in there. Typically, they're specified using an RGB hex code format. So it's the hex value, and you give it a name, and typically it makes sense. Now notice they've used primary and secondary, but you can use virtually whatever you want to use in here. All right, so this chapter, again, I didn't tell you a whole bunch. I didn't bring up any code, but I wanted to just mention some of the examples and some of the stuff that's in here. And I'll probably do this again in the next chapter, because the next chapter talks about working with menus and working with preferences. And I'll be back to talk about that with you in just a couple minutes.